Good morning, and it really is morning today. Come out before 7 a.m. I don't really have a great reason aside from the fact that I was up and it was just appealing. And there is something hard to describe about coming out, kind of trying to be the first person into an area. I think you just feel like you're the first one to tread the ground. Obviously, as we've seen from the trail cam, the nighttime is very much the animals' domain of time where they will come out, wander around. But in the daytime, they do tend to seem to retreat a little bit back into the deeper woods. So I don't know, when you're the first person into the area, you feel like you are treading on ground that only they've been on for a while. It's as I said, it's difficult to explain really, but it's a slightly more magical feeling. And so yeah, I just thought I'd come for a wander really. It's a really nice morning. It's going to be very hot the next few days, unsurprisingly, but the air is quite cool at this time of the day. It's if you've watched regularly, you'll probably see that I haven't come out very early a whole lot recently, and I don't have a good reason for that apart from just getting up and getting going. I really love coming out early, as mentioned, but not being very disciplined about doing so. So thought I would today and actually enjoy the peace and the quiet and the nice air that's around. And I'm just going to take a wander down the verge because I've not been down here for a while. So we'll see what's happening up there and carry on. So I've just come across this delicate little flower on my way around, and it's new to me. And I have a feeling, if all the research is right, that it might be skullcap, which I hadn't heard of and which is a pretty cool name. But it's rather delicate, nice sort of bluish lavender colour, pretty tiny. I'll see if I can, there you go, pretty small. And there's just a little covering of it. Apparently it generally likes wet areas, which I don't think there are any of right now. But yeah, it's quite small. I don't know if these will, I think they stay relatively closed, the flowers. I'm not sure they're going to open up more than this. At first I thought they were something that was going to open up gradually, but I actually have a feeling they won't. But yeah, another flower notched up. Don't know what it's doing here. I guess there are wet paths that run through here, aren't there? So it may be damp, still damp underground, even if the surface is pretty dry. So I must admit, the verge is pretty overgrown. Really having to push through here, unfortunately. I don't know if anybody else is walking this. It's actually, ouch. Brambles, ooh, that's a nasty one. Okay. I thought maybe, I think other people are still walking through here because I see flat, I mean you can't see it in that mess, but there's flattened grass here. But it's oops. It's not an easy challenge. I mean, it's just, look, it's an absolute brambly mess. I'm actually wondering about retreating, unfortunately. Coming back down from the top to have a little view. I love these few trees out here though. There's something nice about the ones on the verge. They're just more noticeable, aren't they? Because they stand out rather than just being part of the blob of trees, to use the technical term. But it's rather nice out here, so it's a pity the path isn't a tad more clear. Alright, back on the main path now. That was quite an exhausting trudge, but this will be a lot more open and easier to walk. Alright, so don't often do this, but just every now and again I notice what's going on in the ground. And this little area here, at first there's not much going on, but if you get in a little closer, do you see the colour? The redness? And all these little scraps? Well, I think what's happening is that we are underneath a spot where a squirrel is feeding on the cones, because you have a couple of complete ones, but then you have these cores that are laying around, and then all of the outer, whatever you would call them really, scales. Doesn't sound right, but yeah, it's just in this little concentrated area. You can see, if I pull back, you can see basically around here, which is just under these, what I'm guessing are spruce. You know how I am with evergreen trees, pretty terrible. So I think what probably happens is they sit up there, grab the cones, have a feast, and then leave this little pile of debris in the track, which is cool. There's so many things, I bet, as you become more practiced at your forest craft, let's call it, I reckon you probably use those signs more and more for finding things. So you'll notice disturbances. Like I feel like I'm beginning to do that a little bit. Here's another little area, so maybe another spot where the squirrels like to hang out. But yeah, I feel like I'm seeing the trails that the animals like to walk through. And you know, there'll be the odd thing, but there's probably so much more. Somebody who really knows their stuff could probably look at this path and notice 100 different things that are going on that are of interest and tell you a bit about what's going on in the woods. It's very cool, really. Coincidentally, in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, of which I partake somewhat, that would be very much the survival skill, they call it, which is the ability to find your way through the natural world, which is a cool skill. I always like to have decent survival. It's just, I don't know, sure, you know, you can fight big bad guys, but there's something cool about just being able to read the woods. And one of the great things about that game is it lets you live a life that you don't currently. So yeah, I'm not the best at reading the woods, but in that you get to pretend that you are, and that you just sense everything, and you can just stand there, close your eyes, and know what's going on around you. Always a fun skill to max out. Anyway, sorry, back to the real world. I always love how still it is amongst the pines or spruces or whatever we have back here. I guess because they're not quite as susceptible to breeze, there's usually quite a stillness under them. And they don't have a lot of under foliage either. It's all very high with lower, much lower, like not until you get down to the ferns and such underneath where you get any more cover. So you have this weird middle area where it's just the trunks, and I think they get very echoey and very spooky in a good way, honestly. Very still back here. Just making our way back down to the top of the verge. I don't think you can tell very easily on the camera, but this is quite a... This side of the woods really leads up and up and up the further back you go. And once you get back to the second clearing, which we've just moved out of, it's quite... steep is too strong a word, but it's quite a slope, and I don't think it ever fully comes across on camera. Can't believe how overgrown the verge has gotten since I've last come out, and honestly I feel a little bad for not having attempted to come this way and have a look more often. It was one of our more popular walking paths earlier in the year. I think I really enjoyed the transition from habitat to habitat mostly, and you know, made a nice circular walk. But there you go. Still lovely, but I'm not going to try and beat my way through all of that undergrowth. Well, if I don't make it out again tomorrow, I guess this might be the end of the video. So thanks for watching, guys. Just a bit of a wander this morning, really. Nothing more. But, you know, sometimes it makes change from other things. So there you go. But we'll see you next time. Maybe this is one of those ones where I'll mention that if you feel able to, you know, do any of the liking or subscribing to the channel, that I guess that's advantageous in some way. I don't really know, but at least shows that people are watching, I guess, which is nice. And you can always check out the Patreon, which I think there's a link to in the description, if you're interested in sort of further support. But anyway, I hate talking about all that stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye bye.